All right, so welcome to How to Manage Your Personal Finances and Grow Your Wealth training by Coach Samuel Ibanda. And why we are here today is to learn more about how we can manage our personal finances. Now, the picture that we have on the screen here is somebody trying to pick some money from their wallet. Now, this alone, whatever they are doing, whatever the picture is showing, is just a bit 1% of the whole overall game. Okay, maybe they want to spend, or they are trying to count how much they have. Whatever it is, that is just a small percentage of the whole aspect of personal finances. Now, in most cases, when you hear personal finances, when you hear wealth, people think about money. But I want to tell you that money in its own is just a mode of exchange. It's not the wealth. It's just a mode of exchange. It's not the wealth. And you know very well that most of the richest guys, you not find them with a lot of money, let's say in their wallet or whatever it is. Basically, their money is being used to create more money. Okay, so that is something that we need to be able to understand even as we get into the detail of how to manage our personal finances. Of course, when somebody speaks about personal finances, we are trying to look at your money, your income, your expenses. We are trying to look at your investments. We are trying to look at your debt, whatever rotates around your money. Your personal finances is basically your life with money. So we want to see, how do we manage our relationship, our life with money to create wealth? Because it's not about us making the money, it's not about the day-to-day spending or saving. At the end of the day, the overall goal is for us to create wealth, okay? To create wealth. So I want to start with, I usually love to start with quotes because quotes try to spark our mind. So Robert Kiyosaki, one of those financial gurus, says that the single most powerful asset we have is our mind. If trained well, it can create enormous wealth. Now, the reason why you're part of this training is because you believe in this. You believe that the more you know about money, the more you're actually able to create the right decisions about your money. And that in itself will be able to create for you certain element of wealth. So you have made the right decision to be part of such a training, and this is not the end. Like I said earlier on, your journey to personal finance is more like your spiritual journey. It's not that you go to church or to the mosque once in a week and that is all and you master it all. Every day is a learning process. Every day is a perspective that you're able to get. Every day is a reflection that comes to your mind, okay? So I want us to start with this action. And this is a personal finance reflection. And I want you to, if you're following through this, I want you to have your pen and notebook at hand. And I want you to make these reflections. And why this is very critical is because this is your first step to examine your personal finance journey. Have you ever gone to a hospital and then a doctor does a diagnosis of your current sickness? So you tell them, I have some headache, I also have low appetite, I also have some fever, and so on. Now, this is an individual reflection that you make with yourself, because the most honest person you can be honest to is yourself. You can be as much honest with yourself. There's some things that you may not share with me as your coach, but this is your personal finance journey. So yours is to think about, how much do I earn monthly and annually? And every time I speak about how much do I earn monthly, I know for most of us that may be following this session, are you're either salary earner or you are a business owner. So you have some amount of money you earn. If you're a salary earner, this is more of your salary. If you're a business owner, you might look at your profits, or you might look at the salary that you have created for yourself within the business, not what the business has made in a month, because your personal finance is different from that of the business. So you write down in terms of how much do you earn monthly. This is very critical. Of course, this could be private information. You may be writing it in a notebook and you don't want anyone else to get across that notebook. But this is your overall life. This is who you are, and this is what exactly. Now, when you're looking at how much you earn, you have your major source of income. For myself, it's a salary. And then you also have other sources of income, just in case you have alternative sources of income. Now, if you only have salary, be honest with yourself, let it be salary. If you have, let's say, maybe you have some rentals where you're getting some rent income, let's be that one of the things that you're able to note down. Ideally, you should have a value of how much you earn. It should not be just kind of in terms of you cannot tell even how much you earn. Okay, if it's a business, the earnings may not be routine, but like we say, create a salary for yourself within the business, so you know that this is how much I earn, so that you're able to plan for that what you earn. Because if you don't know how much you earn, then even planning for it might actually be a problem. You might actually plan to spend more than you're actually earning. And also that needs to cascade down to annually. Now, some of your earnings may not be monthly, and that is why I included the word annually. So you also need to look at what are some of your other annual incomes that come through, including things like interest, in case you have, let's say, maybe treasury bills or bonds that you have invested in, or you have any fixed incomes that maybe you have that you have saved with the bank. Whatever it is, you may need to create that kind of list of all your incomes. Okay. And now, of course, in the same way, if you have some, let's say, unroutine incomes, maybe that comes in once in a while, in the same way, have an average. Just write an average of how much comes in on average from each of the areas. And why this is very important is, especially if, for example, you are a coach like myself, or you are a consultant, or whatever kind of work that you're doing, you should have at least a picture of what is usually your income like, and also in terms of your target. For example, as a coach, I know how many clients I work with, let's say, on a monthly basis. I also know how many trainings I hold, let's say, in every quarter. So I have a picture. So you're able to put down something. It may not be as very exact, because this is just sort of a reflection. Today you may trade your salary and your salary changes next month, but the first whole thing is put down how much do you earn annually, monthly. Okay, so I hope that is helpful. So after you have put how much you earn, yours is now to get down in terms of your expenses. Now, this is more practical, and this is not a thing of write down your expenses every day and so on. This is a one-off reflection. You first making your money. So why is it important? Myself, I usually once I'm doing such kind of analysis, I can use my Excel, whatever it is, but yours, you could be using a notebook right now. I just want you to reflect also on some of your major expenses. Okay, for people that are still renting, rent could be your major expense. You could also have, let's say, maybe you have a given budget for, let's say, meals at your home. You have something for utilities. You have something for, let's say, maybe you have support staff at your home that you pay a salary. Maybe you have, let's say, a cleaning expense, and so on. Now, why is it very important for you to know your expenses? Because remember, how much you earn is your cash inflow, is what comes in. How much are your expenses is what takes your money. Now, it's very critical, and if you to follow through many people that have been able to overcome brokenness to an aspect of financial independence, it all starts with understanding what takes your money. Now, you might have a challenge with writing this routinely, less every time you spend. But you should have a picture of how much your money, because at the end of the day, from your expenses, looking at also how much you're earning unless on a monthly basis, you're able to also get a picture of how much you can put aside without having to affect your day-to-day life. How much you can put aside in terms of saving for investment, in terms of saving, let's say you're saving for an emergency fund, whatever it is that you want to do. Because, for example, if you're earning, let's say 2 million shillings, and you list down your expenses, by the way, you'll be surprised that your expenses are even to the tune of, let's say, 1.8. And you're like, wow, is it 1.8? And that comes in when you get down, you put some of these things down. Of course, in the same way, you may not also have some expenses may not really be that very exact. For example, if you're a home, like for example, your family, you should have an average of let's say, how much you spend on a daily basis in terms of the day-to-day running of your home. Have a picture, some amount of money that you know that on a daily basis, maybe we spend like maybe 30, or we spend 50, or we spend 20. Have a picture. And in the same way, you also should have a picture of how much you spend on, let's say, on transport. Some of us are working at a distance away from our homes, and you're actually spending, let's say, over 10% or 20% of your salary is actually going into transport. All these have to be listed down. You have to reflect. You may during this session, you may not let's say comprehensively, but I wanted you to start on it. Start on it. And if you've done this before, well and good, but reflect again. Okay, it has nothing to do with you reflecting again, because in the same way as we are doing all this journey, is the same thing that we should be able to do on a routine basis. At a time like this, when we are ending the year, okay, if you're following this session at a point in time like this, or you're starting a new year, or we are in the mid of the year, ours is to reflect on some of these things every day, because life keeps on changing. Today, I have expenses as an individual. Next day, I have a child. Next day, I have a dependent who has joined us, and that has increased our expenses. Now, after you have looked at your expenses, try to sum them up. Okay, you use your calculator and try to sum them up. And yours is to, before even you proceed to how much you should have in investment, how much it should go into emergency fund, yours is just to have a reflection. Try to compare the two figures and see. Now, some of us are married. Now, yours, you could be married and some of your expenses are, let's say, being covered up by your spouse, okay? So when you're looking at here, your expenses, how much you earn, now you can do this exercise as a family, as together, as a spouse, and as a couple. You can be able to do this together. So you add up all your incomes as a family, and then you also look at your expenses at a go. If you're doing this individually and you, let's say you're not doing it with your partner, yours is to look at your contribution towards the expenses at home, okay? To see how much do I contribute to home, okay? So anything that takes your money, you should be able to reflect on it. And why I'm bringing these perspectives is because everyone handles their money differently, and everyone is in different kind of state, okay? So very important, including also, of course, other expenses that you might also be, let's say, spending on, let's say, your relatives and so on. Now, in the same way, within you looking at your expenses, we also have what you might call maybe the discretionary expenses. Like you might have also expenses that don't happen routinely, like monthly, but you are aware of them. Maybe they are part of your annual expenses. Those you could also have somewhere where you're able to note them, because at the end of the day, they also cascade down to your, because you earn a monthly income. So ideally, part of your expenses that you're incurring on, let's say quarterly basis, maybe school fees, whatever it is has to be, you have to make sure that you're trying to also look at it from the perspective of, on a monthly basis, how much of those expenses are taking my income. Okay, so look at that. And that's why you see it's very good for you to look at this from the perspective of monthly as well as annual, because also some of your expenses may be not monthly. Okay, this is very important, and it doesn't matter which kind of space you may take within your notebook, whatever. This is a reflection, and it's a practical thing. It's not you don't just think about it. You write this down. Okay, you write this down, and these things, as you write them down, they open your mind. Just as we wrote our monthly incomes. Some people are writing 1, 2, 3 incomes. And if you're writing one income, this at all is opening to your mind, like, and you're trying to think about and say, this is my only income. Okay. So after you have written your incomes and your expenses, and you've been able to look at how much of your expenses take your income in terms of percentage, that should give you a picture of how much you should invest or save. But before we get there, ours is also to reflect right now. How much do I have in terms of investments? Okay, how much have you invested? For example, if let's say you have shares, let's say CIPLA. For those that are listening this from another country, CIPLA is one of the companies listed on the Uganda Stock Exchange. So if it's what is within your shares, basically, write that down. It's very good for you to have an idea of where your money is. Okay, because sometimes you might have several investments that you may even forget about at the end of the day. Which pieces of land you have, and basically you use, when you're writing down your investments, you use the values, basically the purchase values. Okay, basically the historical purchase values you purchased. You may not have to go into terms of how much value they have. If they are shares, you have now a clear picture of how much their value could be. But if they are, let's say, maybe land, have the price of how much you bought it. That's enough for you for now. Okay. Now, have you ever heard about this so-called thing of your net worth? Now, all that we are doing here is we are examining our net worth. Okay. And like I said, it's just like going to a doctor. Before the doctor can do anything, the first thing they have to first do is understand what is actually your current status. What exactly, do you have any chronic disease before? Do you have any family related kind of disease, and so on? So this is the same thing with your money. Okay, this is the same thing with your money. Just as you, even before you make let's say a commitment to, let's say, get into a relationship, you understand yourself as well as the partner you're going to. Okay, so that is what we are basically trying to do. So it's more to help you to rethink more about, and basically few people do such a kind of analysis, and I'm going to tell you why some people are actually okay with this, and why some people don't feel like this is really important for them. But for me, as a personal finance coach, I want to tell you that this is one of the most important aspects in your journey to your personal financial freedom or financial independency. Okay, so the other is how much debt. Now, some of us may have mortgages. Okay, you might have a mortgage, and you might also have, let's say bank loan, and so on. Okay, so you may have to include those as well. Okay, so someone says, is my home, building, and land considered assets? Yes, include these as assets. Include these as assets. Okay, Yeah, I know there's a financial accounting definition of an asset, but anything that you own, okay, let that be part of your assets, just for clarity. Anything that you own, okay. Yeah, you could also include your vehicle as well. It is an asset. It's something that you can sell the next day and can be able to give you some amount of money, okay. So be able to include that as well within your assets, just to have a valuation of what is your worth, okay. What is your worth basically, okay. So how much debt you have, this is also very, very important. And also look at it from the perspective of how long you need to pay it. If you have a long-term loan like a mortgage, then you're able to also be able to reflect on how long it will take you to pay it. And also, in case you have any loans, maybe a bank loan, salary loans, or you have a loan with a saving group, or you have a loan with a friend, a family, a relative, whatever it is, it's very good to think about the money that we have that doesn't belong to us. And why this is very important is because from the perspective of understanding how much money we have that doesn't belong to us, it even helps us to even plan more easier of how to pay back this money, okay? It's very important. Many people struggle with loans, by the way, paying back the money, because one, sometimes they even forget about this money, or other, they actually know about this money, but they feel it's not relevant for them to pay back, okay? Maybe because of the relationship they have with the person who lent them this money and so on. It's very good to always think about how much is outstanding that you need to pay other people. Even within your debt, you might also look at any outstanding. You might have rent arrears, maybe for the last 3 months. Very good for you to note them down as well. If you have a balance in regards to, let's say you purchased an asset and you still have a balance, maybe it's on a vehicle, it's on land, write it down, okay? Write it down. Very key for you to write it down. And like I said, this exercise is being done right now as we part of this training, but you can expound this when you have a more time, have that time that you're able to reflect at this more. And then also let this also be routinely for you as well. You can choose to do it, let's say maybe annually, maybe after every 6 months. You're able to sit down with yourself. It's basically a money meeting with self to try to reflect and see, yeah, I want to tell you that myself, I usually do this a lot. And there are times when I have to reach and say, I think how much I'm earning currently is not enough for me, and I either need to ask for a pay rise, I need to think of other alternative sources of income, or I need to do A, B, C, D, and so on. And also this reflection also helps me to plan in terms of how I'll do different financial decisions. For example, if I want to pay for a given course, then I know how to plan it, because I have an idea of how much remains after I've made my expenses, okay? So it helps me, it does help. So once you're done with your loans, whatever is outstanding that you need to pay other people, yours is also to reflect of how prepared am I for any emergency. Now, when I speak of emergency, I just want to assume maybe you have not started on this journey. Now, one of the things that is very critical when it comes to your personal finance journey is the aspect of having an emergency fund. Now, when we say emergency fund, it looks like more of something that is a bit, I don't know how to call it, but it seems like I don't need this to some people. Now, one of the things that I want to indicate here is the fact that you need to be able to know that anything can happen at any point in time, okay? Anything can happen at any point in time. Last year, around a very similar time, I was traveling, and I was going to see my sick dad. That time, my late dad was very sick and he was in hospital. So I got a call from my brother, and he was crying on phone. And of course, I knew in my heart, I knew that I had passed on. So to me, it at that point in time, the first thing I thought about, how do I, let's say, have a good send off for my father? And I'm sharing this basically for you to learn something, that anything can happen at any point in time. So at that point in time, the financial decisions I made, because I'm the firstborn at home, first son at home, and I had to make sure that I handle the whole event of send off, okay, including bringing in different service providers to just make sure the whole journey moves, okay, the whole journey moves very well. And I want to tell you that if I hadn't created an emergency fund at that point in time, I think I wouldn't have managed. But for me, it helped, because immediately I got the news, I immediately made my call to funnel services company, was able to do many things around there. I was able to make sure I made necessary purchases and so on. So that was for me a rescue for myself. The same thing also similar to that, when I contracted COVID this year, I also went through the same thing, because at that point in time, I could not even hold such sessions. Every time I hold them, I would feel sick. I was sick. So my income went down. And what rescued me was my emergency fund. Now, yours too, you need to make sure that you prepare yourself for any emergencies, okay? Any emergencies. Now, when you speak of emergencies, sometimes it's also not motivating, and many people may think about, but also your emergency may also be an opportunity, by the way. The emergency may be an opportunity. Maybe someone has told you of maybe a given piece of land or whatever it is that you can always do it, you can always leverage on and take advantage of. Now, when I speak about how am I prepared for emergency, you always think about how much money, let's say, do I have on my account, okay? Because that is the starting bit of it. And if, for example, today is maybe could be a date of, let's say, payday, and maybe just received your salary, that wouldn't be money for emergency, okay? That would not really be money for emergency. When I speak about the money for emergency, this money should really be on a different account if possible, or you can have it, let's say, there are different avenues of how to keep this money. One, you need to have money, at least money in your, let's say, within easy reach. It could be just mobile money, okay? It could be mobile money. It could be maybe cash that you have at home, just in case anything happens in the night, you have some money that you start with. You also could have money that maybe is with, let's say, saving group, that is a call away, that if I just call and say, guys, I'm in a problem, they will be able to credit your account immediately, okay? So how prepared are you for an emergency? It could be, let's say, you've saved, these days, insurance companies have what we call them the unit trusts, okay? Of course, for the unit trusts, most of them take you about 24 hours to actually get your money. Takes you about 24 hours to get your money when you need it, okay? You can save monthly, but it takes you about 24 hours. I think that could be the minimum, okay? But then you know that there are some emergencies that don't wait for such, where you need money, okay? Where you need money. And you see, this money also is not you only needing it, but also either your dependents or your family members needing it when anything happens to you, okay? When we had people go into times where they needed more oxygen to keep them alive during the phase of COVID. And you could reflect about it and say, in case such a scenario happened to me, I would actually not spend even 4 days in the hospital, because I cannot afford, let's say, 1 million shilling or 2 million every day to keep me on oxygen, okay? There's a time, there's actually a cousin of mine who was on oxygen to the extent that the doctors started threatening of them removing her on oxygen at that point in time, if at all we couldn't make an extra payment. Okay. Now, of course, we have different support systems, but before we even think about the support systems we have, the relatives, the so-called, is to think about ourselves. Do I have an emergency plan? Now, most of us, because we have a single bank account, you find yourself that is the account in which you even spend that account to the extent that you put in your ATM and they'll tell you have insufficient funds. Now, that is not an account that holds your emergency fund, because anything can happen at any point in time in the month. Either it's on the 30th day before the paycheck comes in, or anything. And there are those moments when you make a call to Samuel and say, Samuel, I'm in need of, let's say, 1 million shilling. And Samuel will tell you, I'm also badly off. So this is why it's very important to think about the aspect of how prepared am I for an emergency? Either it is a disease. Is just a gentleman who was just on an event and he got a brain tumor and he has gone into lots of expenses. Now, we are human and we are more like plants. Today we are blooming. The next day is it withering, whatever it is. So life is of ups and downs. So you need to critically think about this area, by the way. Think about it. How prepared am I? What are some of the avenues? Now, if you're writing them in terms of responses to your reflection, be able to put down, for example, I have this money with a saving group that I can easily call out. And that's why you see every time, even when I join any saving group, okay, if it's for emergency fund, basically, I usually ask about the fact that how easy is it for me to recover my money when I need it? Very important, because you don't know when you'll actually need the money. Okay, very important. But also have something like, for example, you may choose and say, at least I usually have a 500,000 Ugandan shillings somewhere in my house at any point in time. Okay, I usually have this minimum balance on my mobile money at any point in time. Okay, and so on. Or you can say, I have invested this money in unit trust. Now, you can spread this money in different avenues. Like I said, you don't just have to put in, let's say, in one area, but you can have it in different places where you know that I can actually get. Now, for me, one of the other avenues that I've used, especially for emergency fund, just to also share with you, is I run a retail shop, one of my investments. And for me, I've run this for the last now about 5 years. And what I do is, that one is part of my emergency fund. The sales and so on, I don't remove money from it. Money keeps on. Every time we get the sales, we put them back and so on. So every time I have a financial issue, I know that at least I know that they have, let's say, 200,000 minimum that they have in, let's say, cash. So I know that I can easily say, I'm just a call away and say, deposit this amount of money. Okay. So your different avenues could be, you could have a saving box. Which saving box, you know, that is just a metal away and you break it and you have your what? Money to cater for your emergency. So whatever works for you. But ours is now to reflect and say, how prepared am I for an emergency? Okay. So very critical. Please include what you think is preparing you well, and then we shall see how to now take on the action. Okay, very important. And then the other that I also want to reflect about, still similar to that, is how secure are my dependents if anything happened to me? How secure are my dependents if anything? Now, this is for people that are married, and this is for people that or have other dependents. You may not be married, but you have other people that depend on you. Now, why this is very important, you know, some people call it legacy. It's very important because, like I said, we are like plants, and anytime today we are earning, next day we are not earning. Okay, so it may be a loss of job, loss of income. It could be an illness. Okay, it could be, let's say, maybe death. Okay, worst case scenario, and God forbid. So how secure are your dependents if anything happened? the next day. And this should also cascade in terms of down how secure is their education, how secure are they. Now, for example, if you're renting, you just reflect and say, how secure are they if I'm gone? Maybe because you earn a salary and it's one that facilitates your rent. Okay. So how secure are they if you can no longer earn, or if you're gone the next day? Are they going to be thrown out of the house, or they will actually have they'll be a little more secure? Okay, they have a backup. You actually have a backup plan. What is your backup plan when it comes to your dependents if anything happened the next day? Okay, this is very important. It may be similar to emergency, but when it comes to security for ensuring that your dependents are safe, it's a bit broad. Okay, it's a bit broad, and this is where if you have a life insurance policy is there to make sure that there is some security you've created in case anything happens. Okay, you know that my kids will be able to go to the best school, either I'm alive or not alive, and that is it. You've created a security for them. You need to be in that position where you know that just in case I get ill, I have this amount of money that can pay for rent for the next maybe 6 months until when I'm better. Or in case this job is gone, at least I can be able to cater for meals at home for this next period. Okay, so related to emergency, but a little broader, a broader reflection, because this is more dependent on the people that depend on you. Who are your dependents? Okay, either it's your brother, your sister, or they are either your children or it's your spouse. Some of you have spouses that where you're in a scenario where it's only them that are working, and for you not working. Okay, so, or let's say maybe you're working and they are not working, whatever it is the scenario. So how secure are they if they depend on you financially, just in case happens? This is a meeting with self. It's basically a meeting with self, and it's a honest conversation, because no one will judge you, and it doesn't matter how unprepared, let's say, we are. I think what matters is the acceptance of how unprepared we are and how ready we are to take the next step in regards to changing our narrative, to changing our current situation. Okay. And then lastly, the other is, how prepared am I for my retirement? Now, this is a far-fetched question for somebody who is in their, let's say, mid-20s or late 20s or early 30s, even mid-30s. This is not something that many people really may think about. Okay, and you see these days, because especially for us in Uganda, the fact that we usually have an update of our NSSF balance, I think that alone has also made us get a little comfortable in regards to thinking more about that money as money that will be able to cater for our retirement. I'll give you a scenario. My father worked in those late I think late 80s and so on, and I think when Seven came into power, I think there was a revaluation. There was a revaluation of our currency. So the revaluation of our currency affected the NSSF balances, because this is money that is with government. So anything that is altered on the side of government even affects them. So to the extent that once they got to, I think about, around 1987. So once that happened, it actually meant that their retirement benefits got down. Okay, my father was not really earning a very good income. But I want to tell you that the gentleman woke up, he did all the processing, and the amount they told him shocked him so much. Just like if you're working right now and you know that your NSSF balance is now in millions of money, and you go there and these guys are saying you have only 2 million shillings and so on. Okay. So I'm not saying that will happen, but what I'm saying is, in addition, apart from you trying to think about NSSF, when I speak about how prepared am I for my retirement, cascades beyond that to looking at what other alternative investments have I made. Right now, you might find somebody who is in their 30, and they have, let's say, invested, let's say, in planting trees and so on. And sometimes whenever we hear of long-term investments, somebody tells you, when you plant these trees, they take you about 15 years, and after 15 years you can sell this tree at, let's say, 1,000,000 shilling each, and so on. Like 15 years, somebody gives you an investment, for example, let's say maybe it's a life insurance policy, and tells you within 10 years or 20 years, and like, really, will this really be even, will it be relevant for me? Now, how prepared you for your retirement? Retirement is not only just about how much money you have, let's say, saved, but also it's an everyday conversation that you need to reflect about yourself in terms of, what will I really be doing in my retirement? Okay, because in most cases, it's not about even the money, because you retire, you're given the money. But I want to tell you, from the statistics that we have seen, they have shown that most people that receive their money actually lose their money immediately. It doesn't take them long. Yesterday, about like 3 days back, a lady whom we work with was sharing with me a story of her sister who got her retirement benefits from NSSF. And because, you see, because of our personalities, sometimes we are not used to getting a lot of money. I think you've been in a scenario where your account is given amount of money that you have never held before, even if it's a loan. There's a way your mind, basically money is like a spirit. There's a way your mind is a little affected somehow in the way the decisions that you had to make. So this lady, because she started asking different people about how she could spend the money. She had gotten about, I think it was about 280 million. She had worked in the bank, so this was a lot of money. Okay, and one gentleman who was a client to her in the bank actually told them of an opportunity that was in the funds. At that point in time, funds were just starting up. So told them of an opportunity of importing funds from South Africa and so on. So this lady was taken to South Africa. She was able to see where the funds are bought. She was really excited. And you know what? She didn't tell anyone. She even didn't tell the husband. She didn't tell any sister of hers and so on. So this lady goes into this, and of course, they still convince you, make sure that you start with a higher amount so that you can be able to leverage on the discounts. To end the whole story short, this lady lost her money. She sent money, even this so-called client, former client for the bank where she was working, she couldn't even trace this gentleman because this was a lot of money, and this guy made his calculations very well, to the extent that this lady went into a mental healthy problem. She got issues that it took her about over 12 months to get back to who she is. Of course, even she lost trust from her family members and so on. So retirement is a very key aspect to us. And it's not about you being old at certain, maybe you need to be 40, 50 to think about retirement. I think all of us need to start this conversation. Even when you receive your money, what are you exactly going to do with it? And that's why I usually encourage people, because I'm very passionate about business, is create your retirement ground so that the other money comes to give you a boost instead of getting this money and you have to start everything from zero. Because remember, you're going to your retirement, you need a peace of mind. You're already old, so you need something that is not going to take you a lot of your time and effort and so on. Okay, so you need to think about retirement. Everyone will get retired. Okay, no matter what your age, at one point in time you'll get retired, or if you don't get retired, you'll actually die before retirement. So retirement is very key, and for planning purposes, it's very good we make a conversation with where we will be for retirement and how much we are preparing. Okay, so how prepared are you for retirement? Make sure that you have all that cascaded down. Just to recap a little things about around the reflection. Somebody says is okay. Just a question here. Can I include my SSF current balance as my assets? I wouldn't advise you to include your NSSF current balance as your asset for now. And the reason why I don't want you to include it is because this is not money that you qualify yet to receive. Okay, if at all, unless maybe you have already qualified and you've already signed the papers, and maybe NSF has given you the down payment, maybe the remaining balance can be part of your asset. But if you're not yet the required age, you don't qualify for the money. That money belongs to government for now, so that will not be included. But when it comes to your child education, yeah, that is part of your asset in terms of maybe you could also look at in terms of, let's say, how much, let's say, you have saved. But in the same way, if you want to be a little more prudent, in the same way, you've also not met the key conditions for that. You see, insurance is more of it's not more of an asset until let's say the valid date. Okay, and why this is very important, people that are working in insurance will really agree to this, is that this, as it is your money, but there's a certain period that you have to reach in terms of your premiums for you to be able to qualify to even get part of what you have saved. Okay, so I would, for me, if I'm doing my analysis, you can include it. But if I was doing my analysis, like I said, this is personal finance, so it may be a personal decision. I would not want to include it there. I would include it at least for the question of what? For the question of how secure are my dependents in case anything happened. Okay. Yeah. And then gratuity, part of my amount, yes, gratuity you can include that, okay, because you qualify for the gratuity. All right, so we have made a reflection about our money, okay? And the next thing I want us to think about now, I just try to share this, and I'll share this slide with you as well, so maybe you can try to reflect a little more. Now, there's what we call the 7 personality types of money. And the reason why some of you are struggling when it comes to writing, noting down, saving, and so on, sometimes because of your personality. I think we all know that we have different personalities, even in real life. There's somebody who is an introvert and there's somebody who is an extrovert. And you cannot rule anything away from that. So the same thing with money as well. We have a key personalities, okay, which you can try to read more and reflect and see where do I fall, okay? So we have, just to run through, we have what we call the compulsive saver, somebody who is more motivated to saving. For them, they will save endlessly. Even for where there's no room for bargaining, they will actually bargain as much as they can. They will never buy anything without bargaining. It's their nature, okay? It's a personality. Then we have the compulsive spenders. For them, they always spend when they have the opportunity to. Basically, it's basically emotional with them, okay? They just feel they should actually make an expenditure. And such people, when, for example, a compulsive saver, this is somebody who will even to forego something that would be for their own benefit, maybe for personal enjoyment. If you tell them of a trip, maybe to Dubai for family holiday and so on, it may be something that they may not think about because they are thinking about how they save the next penny, okay? So there are people like that. And now there are also people who are compulsive spenders. For them, theirs is about spending. They love spending. It's just by their nature. When they go to a supermarket and they have money, they'll go to buy a single item. They'll leave with over 5 items, different items. They'll see this, they'll just get excited. And it's emotional, it's natural, okay? It's very natural. It comes natural with them. And some of these personalities are sometimes developed through our life, maybe because of our parents, influence of our parents, or maybe because of different other reasons, but that might be something that exactly happens with each of us. Then we have the guys that are called the compulsive money maker. Now, these guys believe in making more money. Even when they are in jobs, they'll continue asking for salary increments. they will do the side hustles and so on with a lot of energy. Now, for some people, this does not come easy for them, okay? But for the compulsive money maker, these guys want to make money out of everything, okay? Of course, this in its own could be a good habit, but could also be a habit that, of course, has a challenge to it, okay? Because if you're a compulsive money maker, even sometimes, even when it's not really necessary to make the money, you always want to sell, okay? Even when somebody wants to hire, let's say, friend, wants to, let's say, get your vehicle, you always think about how much. There's a friend of mine who he owns a Benz, and some of our colleagues stay near where the gentleman stays. So this guy, when you jump into his car, actually when he gets to your stop, where your stop point, asks you for transport. He's driving his Benz, but he asks you for a contribution to fuel. So there are people who are always into, and that is their personality. Okay, it's not that they don't have money, but they always look out for money. That's their personality. Then there are guys who are indifferent to money. Now, there are guys that even if you start any conversation to do with personal finance, even when you tell them write down these goals, even when you tell them about saving and so on, they're totally indifferent. Now, people that are usually indifferent are usually, maybe you grew up in a family where everything was in abundance and you were not told about, like, money was not a problem to you, okay? So it was not an issue that you needed to discuss or even to think about. Money is always there. There are people that are like that. You see, and this is where, even as a parent or as somebody who aspires to be a parent, these personalities, once you understand them, you also need to be able to groom your children into certain aspirations or personalities like this, okay? Then we have the guy who is called the saver or splurger personality. Now, this one is just between a saver and spender. For them, they will save, they will have that motivation to save, but along the way, once they have saved, another motivation to spend will just come in, even before they fulfill their financial goals. Basically, they are motivated to save, but when it comes to spending, if they just have that car trip that you tell them about, they'll just spill over all their savings, okay? That's another personality. Then we have the other personality that is a gambler. Now, these guys are basically risk takers, okay? These are risk takers, and for them, they always look out for opportunities to put money and get more money out of it. Even when you tell them that this is not really good for you. I think these days we have the Bitcoins, and you see cryptocurrency, we have other, let's say, maybe network marketing. You see that most of these guys that market these products front them with the whole idea of money, okay? Money in its own. Now, despite the risk that is in terms of some of these investments, you find many people going for them. Now, such people are gamblers, they are risk takers. I'll tell you myself, that's not my personality. Despite the knowledge that I have from, let's say, on Bitcoin, I still, anything that it looks volatile for me is something that I really go in for. I'm a person who loves to put my money into low risk investments that I know my money is. I'm not somebody who is going into something that will take my money just immediately, maybe because of my history as well, okay? And then we have this guy who is called the warrior. Now, this guy is the most stressed person around money. For them, they are always worried about the next day, tomorrow, okay? They basically they lack confidence in money, okay? Every time they are worried of their financial freedom, of how they lose money, every time they are basically stressed about money. They are stressed about, even when they are earning a lot, they're just stressed about the money. So these are just personalities. Now, why did I share these personalities after us trying to reflect? Is because much as we have reflected and we have, through the reflection, we have been able to get a picture of where we would want to be. It's also very critical to understand who we are in terms of what are our personalities, because our personalities are going to matter so much in regards to how our behavior will be, okay? And that's why you see some people will have challenges when it comes to saving. Even as much as they try, they will not save because that is not them, okay? That is not their character. And for such, you see, each of your personality here, you should find a critical way of how to handle it. For example, I'm somebody who struggled when it came to saving. I'll tell you this, that even when I had a good income, I still struggled. Now, what I did is I now went for, we call them, I went for saving modes that deduct from my account directly, basically direct debits. I went for forced saving, okay? I went for forced saving methods. So you too, you may also choose for the same and say, let me go sign up with my bank, and my bank will create, let's say, saving account for myself. And every time I receive money, they will transfer money from that account to the other account, because you cannot save on the same account. That's your personality. There are guys who are okay with it, okay? And they'll keep their money minimum, okay? So make sure you understand your personality, and that will help you. You can continue reading more about personal money personalities just to know which personality yourself you fall into, okay? So now that we understand our personal finance personalities, as well as understanding where we are financially, now ours is now to ask ourselves, where do I want to do better? Okay, where do I want to do better? Now we are going into the goal setting. What exactly do I want to do? Now, a time like this, you want to set, let's say, goals for the next year, or goals for the next half of the year, or goals for, let's say, as you end your year, okay, whatever it is, you want to make sure that you set key goals that are going to pick you from where you are to where you want to be, okay? So when it comes to financial goal settings, now we have things that you may choose. Now, like I said, it's personal finance, it's your personal finance journey. What works for me may not work for you. And these are just principles, and these are options that you may choose to follow, okay? But yours is to remember that at the end of the day, we want to create financial wealth. So despite your preferences, despite whatever personality you are, you have to find the right way to build yourself to financial freedom or financial independence, okay? So through our reflection, we're able to list our expenses. Now, when we are trying to do our financial goal setting, ours is now to examine them, okay? Remember, whatever we did was just a reflection. Write them down. You don't need to take a lot of time on them. But when it comes to goal setting, ours is to now examine them, okay? Examine our expenditure. Now, why it's very important? Because you want to understand what exactly takes your money, and what can you do away with, and what can you manage, and so on, okay? Now, the other aspect that you could also look at when it comes to, let's say, when it comes to financial goal setting, is aspect of improve on my saving culture. So why I'm trying to put now in terms of smart objectives, exact, and so on, is because you also want, when you're trying to set your goals, you also want to set something that works for you, okay? So your personal finance journey works for you. So remember, we have examined, when it came to our reflection here, we examined how much am I earning, okay? And how much takes basically my monthly expenses. Now, that should alone give you how much you need now to save, okay? If you have not been saving, yours is to say, let me start. Now, when you're trying to adopt the saving, by the way, don't start with a higher amount. If you've not been saving, start with an amount that is within your, within easy, you can easily handle, okay? Because many times why we don't meet our saving objectives is because we basically take on huge objectives, okay? We basically take on huge kind of targets that we cannot handle. Now, you know, with saving is a culture, and it's more of a discipline. And it's not about the amount of money that you save. It's about how disciplined you are. Okay, how to know that if I'm saving 100,000, I'll make sure that I put that money aside, either in a saving box, either give it to a unit trust, either put it to wherever you want to put it to. Okay, but yours is to make sure that you're improving on your saving culture, depending on your situation. If you're good at saving, well and good. Okay, but at the end of the day, you know that you save for you're saving for investment. Okay, and ideally we also have one of the options within your goals is to create an emergency fund. So yours could also be saving for, let's say, for the emergency fund, or it could be for saving for a given, let's say, life aspect. Maybe you're saving for a holiday, or you're saving for a car, or you're saving whatever you want to save for. Okay, so yours is to improve on your saving culture. And then the other that we're also trying to look at when it comes to financial goal setting, yours could be, say, I want to create 2 alternative sources of income. Okay, now you have your salary, and that is what is within your income. When you made your reflection, you saw that that was the only income you have, or you had only 2 sources of income, and one was not a bit routine in its nature. So yours is to say, let me create another source of income. Okay, now when we try to look at alternative sources of income, and you might have heard about this, we have what we call active income, and we have what we call passive income. We have what we call active income and passive income. Now, active income requires your effort in regards to delivering it. I'll give you an example. For the training I'm holding right now, if I'm conducting this training live, it is active income. It needs my presence to be there. But if I got this training and I put it to an online platform where other people can access it, I will no longer have to create this training for other people. I will not, even if I'm busy doing my work, somebody will be able to buy this training and they'll be able to go through, and that will be my passive income. So as an individual, you also need to start creating passive incomes. And from passive incomes could be rent, a rent income that you get from, let's say, from your rentals. You don't need to be there to really, it doesn't take your personal effort. And you see, it's your passive income that also tries to help you during the times when you maybe you can no longer be inactive, maybe making of income, okay, just in case of anything, but also it supplements. But ideally, anyone who is moving towards the journey of becoming financially independent, the percentage of your passive income and active income, you should have at least, you should strive to have at least 40% of your income to be passive. Some people even exceed to have 60% of their money coming from passive income than active income. Of course, like we said, we are preparing for that time, either in retirement, either when you have the job loss or whatever it is, where we will not have an alternative, but have to utilize the alternatives that we have created when we are earning the amount of money, okay? So that is why it's very important to create those alternative sources of income that are passive in nature, okay? So it could be like, I've given an example of rentals. You could, alternative sources of income, even dividends, okay? Could be dividends from shares. For example, some of you are investing in shares. The dividends is, of course, it's an alternative source of income, but it's passive in nature. You don't need to market MTN to get the dividends from MTN, okay? All you need is to wait for your money. Income from treasury bills and bonds, it's passive in nature, okay? Incomes from people that go ahead to do, let's say, courses, write books, or whatever it is, any product that you create that can be replicated without your involvement, then it's an income, okay? It's a passive income in its own. So think about it in that perspective. As you create your incomes, think about passive and then the active incomes. At least have at least some passive income, okay? And then the 3 to 6 months emergency fund. Now, we have taken you through the reflection in terms of what happens to my dependents, what happens to me in case of anything. So in your journey to creating an emergency fund, like we're saying 3 to 6 months, what you can basically do, if this is one of your objectives, okay, it may not be your objective yet, maybe because you still have other objectives to meet, but this should be one of your critical objectives that you should be thinking about in your path, because anything happens tomorrow. Even tomorrow, we cannot tell what will happen. So start saving for that emergency fund. And you don't need to, like I said, you don't need to start from up there. Start with, let's say, a very small percentage of your income. Start putting that money there. Okay, there are different saving platforms. Even these days, we have the mobile saving, mobile, where you can sign on to MTN and start saving money onto that account. Or it could be a bank account where you know that this is where my emergency fund lies. It could be an investment club where you know that basically my money here is for emergency. Okay, and for you, yours is to, like I said, for investment club, find out what are the conditions on your money. If it's an investment club that invests this money into other things and that you cannot get it easily, then that is more of an investment. It's not an emergency fund. Okay, you could opt for unit trusts. Unit trusts give you some amount of money, interest that comes from your what comes on your money every month. But one of the things that, like I said, unit trusts, sometimes it takes you a lot of time to get this money. And if you've registered that individually and you have an issue as an individual, you cannot even go to this insurance company. You might have some challenges here and there in the delay of processing your funds. So you might want to create, don't just only have the unit trust, but have some other money, maybe on another alternative, let's say, account, or on another avenue where you know that it is easy reach. Okay, I gave you an example of mine where I know that I have the emergency fund, let's say, on an account or the unit trust, but then I also have this so-called small business that I'm running, where I know that if I need 500,000, it's just a 2 minutes call away, and this money is put on my phone. Okay, so very, 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 very critical for us there. Then your financial, or maybe other goal, could be to invest in long-term assets for future cash flows. Okay, so spread your investments. Don't only look at, let's say, maybe short-term investments. Look at long-term investments. Like I said, your retirement matters. You need to look at aspects when your children will get to university, and that's where you get, maybe sign up for things like life insurance policies. You need to look at the future. 10 years from now, have investments that you're trying to look at them in terms of 10 years. Because one of the things that I've really, and you'll agree with me on this, is that today we are working, but we don't work forever. We work for, let's say, for about, on average, people work for about maybe 30 years. Okay, other people are okay, because of the environment they work in, they can work maybe for the next 35 or 40 years. But we cannot easily really much exceed that. There are people that may exceed, but you can no longer be as much active as you were in your 20s or in your 30s and so on. So you have to create an income for your other 40 or so-called 30 years or 40 years, whatever years God will bless you with after your retirement. So that is where the long-term assets come in. Invest in land, invest in property, whatever it is. This is your personal financial journey, and that's why you need to be realistic with yourself. If shares don't work for you, please don't go for them. If treasury bills are still complicated for you and you really don't trust it, yeah, first take your time, invest in what works for you. If you're passionate about farming, you might go for maybe trees that are long-term in nature and so on. So do what works for you. But at the end of the day, yours is to make sure that you're doing something that takes you to creating wealth. Okay, you're not just with a personality of money indifferent. You cannot, things to do with saving, investment is not your business. Yours is to contribute. Every day I think about money. Every day I think about my investments. Every day I'm thinking about how can I create more money for my future. Okay, the same thing. So life insurance policy, that one, I don't work with an insurance company. I want to tell you that this is a must for at least every one of us. Okay, I know it looks more of Western culture, but if you have dependents, okay, if you don't have a dependent, yeah, you may choose not to have it. But if you have a dependent, you need life insurance. Okay, you need life insurance, and people that are working there will agree with me. You need life insurance. Even when you don't have dependents, this could also be an avenue for you to save for long term. Okay, it could be saved for long term, and it could also be something that helps you with the first saving. The first time I joined an insurance company, I actually hadn't gotten any child, hadn't married, but mine, what attracted me to a life insurance policy was more to do with the first saving, because I knew that if I'm putting my money in this place, I know that I have to be committed. I signed up for direct debit from the bank, and this money is deducted every time. So it even got off my mind in terms of having to worry about the monthly contribution. But I know that within, let's say, 10 years, I have my money. And within 10 years, if I'm to choose to say I'm going into early retirement, I know that that money will be part of what will help me to create a good landing ground for me when I'm getting out of employment. So think about it. If it works for you, go for it. If it doesn't work for you for now, yeah, you can leave it. There are other people that create their insurances in different other ways. May say, let me set up real estate just in case I die. School fees for my children can come from these houses and so on. Okay, because there are different dynamics around all these alternatives, but do what works for you and continuously avail yourself with the information, with advice. Okay, this is just a training, but one of the things that I also do as a personal finance coach is I usually have individual sessions where we go through your own journey and what works for you. Basically, I'm not a person who wants to say go on with this and you must go on with this. Mine is to look at what is your situation and what is your personality and what might work for you, what are you comfortable with, because it's more about what you set your mind to. Because if it's life insurance policy, you want to make sure that you committed to this, that if it's a 10 years investment, you make your installments, you make your premiums at least every month, because you believe in the whole thing. So you should really believe in something before you even go for it, and you should understand it comprehensively. Don't invest in something that you don't understand. Okay, yeah. And then the other could be paying off your debt maybe by next year, if that is your scenario. So those are my thoughts when it comes to goal setting. You can have many other goals when it comes, and all those goals should come basically from this conversation you've had with yourself of where are you, how much do I earn, how much are my expenses, how much do I have in investments, how much debt do I have, how prepared am I for emergency, how secure are my dependents, and how prepared am I for my retirement. Now you must have heard about all this, and these things don't seem to be new to you. There's nothing that seems to be new to you. But like I said at the start of this conversation, at the start of this training, is that it's not about the accumulation of the knowledge that you continuously have, but the whole process of you making the decision to say that today I've heard about this, I need to take action. Today is just a few days to the end of the year. I need to make sure I do something different starting next year. Or today is the start of the new year, I need to do something. So whatever time, let's say you're following through this training, it gives you an insight on to who you, what exactly you want to become. It's like personal finance, the knowledge is 20%, 80% is the behavior. How you take on from the behavior matters a lot. But for you is to know that all through my journey, this is my personal journey, and what works for others may not work for me. It's not that because farming has worked for Samuel, I should also go into farming. Do something that works for you, and always leverage on your previous and maybe experience, maybe your personality, how you grew up. There are people that grew up in family businesses. There are people who grew up in families that are into farming. have farms and so on. So that could be their area. So do what works for you. If I'm to just basically give you key highlights there. So after your financial goal settings, I usually love I love the aspect of visualizing. Okay, so there's what we call, I know some of you that are part of this session may know what we call vision boards, or you've heard about it. Now, if you can have a vision board for yourself, well and good. If you don't have a vision board, just visualize how your life will be when you do the right things. Basically, what exactly you want to attain. I think you've seen people that have their dream houses on their computers, people who have their dream cars on their saved on their phones and so on. You could just have a few pictures that you can look into. Now, all this, why this is important is, money is like it's a relationship with money is like a spiritual journey, in a way that your psychology, and you need to be emotionally attached to your goals. Okay, I don't know if you get it. You need to be attached to, you need to create a reminder for yourself. There's a gentleman I was watching who was sharing his story of how he wrote himself a check of a given amount of money, and even dated it with the date when he wants to attain that, and it actually came true. Myself, I've also had similar scenarios where I've set myself onto something and it has actually come to pass because I've visualized it. Okay, now visualizing is very important to see what exactly, because this will be your motivation factor. Because today we have many people that say, I'm going to save. You save for 3 months and you're off. I think you've been part of investment clubs where you guys sit, you agree, you have a lot of energy when it comes to making installments. Get over 5 people have not made their installment for the last 3 months because it's not a priority to them. They actually don't know what exactly they want to do. It's the same thing with saving. I know most conversations around personal finance will tell you, make sure you save, make sure you save, make sure you save. The greatest motivational factor along your journey of saving, of investment, is the visualization of what exactly comes after you have done what you want to do. Like we're saying, whatever you're seeing on the picture here, there's nothing so much to do with money. Money is just the exchange. But what is the kind of life that you want to have for your children? If I visualize and I look at my son, and I want my son to go to the best schools that I didn't have an opportunity to go to. If I look at my family and I visualize and I say, this is my dream home that I need to have with my family. I need to see my children in a much bigger space where they are happy. Okay, I need to be able to go for holidays just like other people. There's nothing that is so much unique about me that I cannot go for this. It's not that me, I was born in a given family, I was born in a humble family, that it should just continue with me, that even my children keep on saying in their stories, I came from a humble background and so on. So visualize the kind of life that you want to live. And if you can make a vision board, well and good. This vision board, there are soft vision boards. Some people just create boards and get pictures, those pictures from magazines, online, whatever it is. Have something that, it could be just even something that you can save on your screen. It could be even one thing that you want to attain out of your whole journey. It could be a house, dream house, include it there. If it could be a car, your dream car, let it be something that you look at to remind you of what exactly you need to be doing every day, okay, to really get to who you want to be. Very important, and it helps with your psychology in regards to pulling you. It's a pulling factor in regards to towards your journey. Every day you know that this is my goal. This you keep on visualizing, okay? Keep on visualizing on how that life looks like that you want to live at the end of the day, okay? So I just felt I should include this for you. For those that would love to explore it, you'll be amazed of how the visualization will be able to impact your life and be able to impact on your personal finance journey. So I have this slide. So we have talked a lot, especially when it comes to personal finance and what we want exactly to do and so on. So this picture is emotional for me. And I just celebrated my anniversary, and I remember the times when I was making my decisions regarding this journey of saying I'm going to say I do. And I've seen different emotional pictures of people crying in such moments. Now, you need to create a commitment with your finances, and a commitment that you're not going to break the next day. It should be a long-term commitment, okay? And this is a long-term commitment is one where you even get to an extent where you have maybe you have a pressing need, but then you think about it like, I'm committed to my saving, I'm committed to my financial goal. This is just short-term happiness. This is the overall goal that I should be able to aspire for. It's that commitment that you get to a point in time where you need to make a contribution towards maybe a given event. And instead of, let's say, giving in a 1 million shilling, you think about it and like, I think I need to give, it doesn't hurt if I give 500 or if I give 100,000 towards, because I have to make sure I meet my monthly premium for my insurance policy. That is what commitment does, okay? Like, yeah, people that are married will agree with me. It doesn't mean that you don't see either handsome people or beautiful wives, beautiful girls or women outside there. We see them, but your commitment, that continuous reminder to yourself to say, I'm committed to my goals, I'm committed to my saving, painfully. It's by the it's not a journey that just comes very easy. It's called frugality, where you have to, you think about an expense, it looks very good. Somebody brings to you an item, it looks very good, and you really wish, but then you think about it and say, can I dwell with this? Can I postpone this to a later stage? Is this too early? Should I have to drive that type of car? Do I really need that type of car per now based on my personal finances? Okay, it's very critical. So you have to make a key commitment to your financial goals. And that's why you see, when you write them down, that is the first step, because you have put them down. Many of us have aspirations just in our minds that even we forget about them. And some of us even write them that even we don't get back to even check and see what we exactly wrote. It's just about the writing. Now, commitment is more to not just writing them down, but being able to hold yourself accountable as an individual, okay? So very, very key to your, it's a journey that you jump into and you get committed. And I want to tell you that once you get your results, okay? Once you get that paycheck from that, let's say, insurance company that is paying you for your 15 years life policy that you have saved, once you get that money from a retirement scheme, where they're giving you this whole money, there's that joy that you have at heart. You see your sweat coming out of that. That joy of opening, of living in under your roof, of knowing that you no longer have to pay a monthly rent to somebody. You no longer have to be worried. That whole joy that you have and know that my children will be able to go to these best schools, either I'm alive or not alive. That whole journey of knowing that even if this job went, I can be able to sustain myself without having to worry about anything. That is the financial independence, and that is the true wealth that you can actually create for yourself. So commitment is very, very key. So just to help you with a few things that you can also improve your commitments, write down your goals, okay? And evaluate yourself after every 3 months. Now, I've tried to use myself, okay? Because this could be like, let's say, my own commitment. When you're writing them down, write down not as notes, just as you're hearing them from me, but write them down with I commit. Okay, I commit. I'll adjust my lifestyle and start monitoring my cash inflows and cash outflows. Okay, have an accountability partner. This could be, let's say, it could be a friend, a very close friend who checks on you in terms of, have you saved for this month? Have you been able to finish that building that you had planned this year? How far have you gone? Okay, and let these people know about their responsibility. Very important. And then also things to do with invest in learning. Now, financial knowledge is not something that you learn and that is all. It's something that you continuously learn. It's like it's like gospel, okay, in its own. You have to continuously make sure that you're learning as much as you can every day. Okay, so that is very true. And then, of course, the other aspect is have a discussion with your partner or family on this commitment. Now, this is very critical. Why? Because in most cases, we plan our personal finance journeys if you're married, and your partner may also be on a totally different journey. So you want to align them in case that is how you, of course, different couples have different ways of how they manage their personal finance journey. But if yours is a oneness in terms of we work together, your partner then needs to know. If you're not married and you're working, you're going through this training, yours is to plan in advance and say, when I get married, we may choose to this. We have to create this discussion. I think one of the critical aspects when it comes to managing your personal finance, if you're married, is the aspect of what is your relationship on money with your partner. Okay, very important. And then still about your commitment, set up direct debits. I told you of my experience where I had challenges when it came to, let's say, making sure I'm saving. So set direct debits off your bank account for each of your save, even if it's an investment club, ask them for which account do they have, let's say their bank, maybe if it's a similar bank, create that direct debit off your account to some of these saving you will not have to struggle as much as possible. You'll be able to save even if it's 50, if you've done a direct debit and you cannot get that money, you'll be able to live within the means. It will just psychologically, you just have to adjust yourself. But as long as you know that you have options, then at the end of the day, you don't really get there, okay? So very important. And then, yeah, join an investment club or other saving group. Now, these are commitments that I'm making myself, okay? And like I said, I'm not saying do this. I'm saying write down what you think works for you. Write down what you think should be your commitment that you want to start with. Like we are saying, do something that you believe in and do something that is practical to you and something that you can sustainably continue with for all the time, okay? Yeah. So I hope this resonates with you, and I hope this helps you to even think about your personal finance journey even in a little more reflective way and in a little more helpful way, okay? So I just have this last component of this training that I want to just share with you. So you just take this home. I call them the 10 commandments of wealthy creation. Basically, when you're doing your goals, when you're doing your whatever you want to do, there are key principles that you may want to have in mind, okay? So the key principle is live within your means, okay? And avoid debt for consumption as much as you can. Now, living within your means does not mean that you're going to live in a poor way. If you have the money, please make sure you whatever you can afford, enjoy, okay? Whatever you can have, let's say achieve or have, enjoy it. If you don't have, then avoid what gets you to the extremes as much as possible, okay? So that you're able to keep as much as you can. Then save for an emergency fund, okay? And for you to really say you have something enough, have a 6 months of your expenses, and you can start small and keep building this. Then have at least 2 alternative sources of income away from your salary or business profits. These are principles, and you can be able to follow through them, and they will help you. Then the next one is build passive income streams that bring in money without your physical involvement. Okay, very critical, very critical. And then the other is invest in long-term assets like real estate, land and property, shares, treasury bonds, trees, and so on. Whatever works for you is what you go with. Okay. And then the last 5, have a life insurance place have an insurance policy in place and an education plan for all your children. For those that have children, if you're married, do financial planning with your spouse and choose what works for you. This is very critical as well. If combining your money doesn't work for you, if you have individual investments and that is okay for you as a family, please, but at least let that conversation be there. Okay, let that conversation be there, and don't be shy to bring it. The other is you retire soon. Make sure you have something more beyond the mandatory NSSF contributions. Okay, the soon means you can't tell when you retire soon. Today you might be 30 or 25. You get an issue and you can no longer work. That will be an early retirement for you, and you have to make sure that you survive through the whole journey. Make sure you're prepared. And the last 2 are very critical. Build a good name for yourself and be valuable to others. You see, today, if you need 5 million, there are people that can easily get this in the next 2 minutes because they have built a good name. There are people who struggle to even get 50,000 shillings from even their closest friends. Why? They have an issue with their name. So have a good name. Okay, have a good name. And we talked of personal branding someday, but have a good name. Keep that good name, because that good name is wealth in its own. That name can be able to create for you partnerships, can be able to create for you opportunities that can increase your wealth. Okay, and then be a cheerful giver. Don't only aspire to give, aspire to make money, but give. A hand that gives, hand receives. Okay, so those are the last 5, and then we shall end with this. I would love to take at least 2, 3 questions or more, and also I would love also to get comments in regards to this journey, and also any other pain points that you think I've not highlighted, or any other questions that you might have. I'll be able to take those as we proceed. So thank you so much for listening. Can I take any questions? You can unmute and ask, or you can use the chat box, and then I'll be able to read them. Then we can reflect together. I want to tell you that, like I said, and I'll keep repeating it's personal finance. So it's your personal finance journey, and you choose what works for you, but there are key principles. Okay, there are key principles, and you don't have to start from the top. It's basically start small and build the discipline. Okay, discipline is very key. That culture you create within yourself is very, very key. Okay, and then also just to take on some question here from your pain points in terms of challenges. One participant here said keeping records is challenging. I like saving a lot, but I don't like writing. Now, you're not alone when it comes to writing. I want to say that many people struggle when it comes to writing, and there are people that find it very easy to write. Either you could find it easy, and maybe your spouse does not find it easy, whatever it is. One of the things I would advise you is have at least, let's say, a budget for certain things, and know that I don't exceed maybe a given amount for this. So you know that Yes, and then when you also have, let's say, these fixed savings and forced savings, you know that at least all them, whatever I have is only for the spending. So you plan within that, and then you can also create estimates in terms of saying maybe on a daily basis I should not spend beyond 20,000. So you may not have to record tomatoes and so on. And then also maybe what you could do also is record in terms of bulk amounts. Let's say you can say home welfare, maybe 20,000 or 30,000, and that is what you are recording, okay? So you don't have to record in so much in detail, whatever works for you anyway, but many people struggle when it comes to writing, okay? And the other alternative is try it out continuously and see if the culture can come in, okay? Because at the end of the day, also look at the importance of why it's important for you to write. Or alternatively is do that routine reflection, okay? Because you also need to think about what is taking your money, okay? What is taking your money? But also the prompt financial decisions you make every time you're picking money from your wallet to make a purchase are also very critical, okay? Because instead of you having to wonder and look at what are some of your expenses, you're making the key monitoring, the control is at the point of time when money is getting out of your wallet. That's where you're putting your control. So your control is not on, let's say, on the list of your expenses, okay? Yeah, but it's a culture, and it's something that you can work on and improve. It's something that you may find another alternative way to actually manage it. Okay, yeah, there is said about spending. So I think you follow under the other personality. So when it comes to spending in the same way, make sure if you're going, let's say, to a certain place, make sure you only go at least with only, don't keep a lot of money near you, okay? And that's why you see these days we have mobile money. Myself, I usually avoid to keep a lot of money on mobile money. I usually keep it a little far away from me, okay? Not of easy reach. And personality, like we have said, okay? Some people really find it very hard when it comes to avoiding the spending, okay? So you can basically do that, okay? Somebody says they have challenges when somebody asks money from them, especially parents or relatives. Now, I have been in such a scenario before, but for me, what worked for me was the fact that I have a budget, okay, that I create. Now, if somebody asks me and it's beyond that budget, let's say on a monthly, even if it's wedding contributions, those days I would give an amount, maybe what I had and so on. But these days I have an amount that I don't go beyond my budget. Basically, on a monthly basis, I'm able to foretell this in advance. And then I also look at, of course, I look at the scenarios. The scenarios may really vary. But for me to make sure I have more money, let's say in saving and investments, then I do I make sure that, you know, there's this aspect where they tell you that spend after saving, like first save and then spend. So I know that this, if I know I only have money to take me through the end of the month and I don't have any other amount of money, even if somebody asks, I'll be able to confidently tell them I'm not doing well and I cannot give them money, okay? Yeah, but I understand your perspective, and it's a continuous, every time you have, when you have money, there's that heart that keeps pushing you to, even if you're going to give somebody needs 50,000, you feel like, let me give them 100,000. So try to make sure that you also restrict in terms of how much money is on easy reach, okay? That's why you see you also need to look at other saving, let's say, avenues where you don't have easy reach of your money. It's not just an account you put in an ATM and gives you money. You put some money in two places where you know that it takes you processes to really get that money. In that way, even if somebody needs say 1 million, you not think about, you just say, now I have to call these guys, I have to sign papers to give me this amount of money. You just tell them I don't have money. So myself, I learned that statement of I'm not doing well, and I'll not be ashamed about it. I know people feel bad, sometimes bad about it, but it's your personal finance journey and it's not any other person's journey. Okay. Yeah. And then putting money in wrong investments and lending them out. Now, myself, I made earlier mistakes when it comes to putting money in wrong investments. And that's why you see one of the things I advise people is make sure you understand more about the investment, even before you put, even if I just come there and say, this thing works out. I told you of that lady who lost money into a phone business. Make sure you understand every investment, even if it comes to shares. During this time, many people have asked me about whether they should invest in shares. I've tried to explain to them in details what the shares, investing shares means to them. I've told them that you can even take over 3 years without getting any penny from your shares, okay? Because directors may choose, or shareholders may choose to keep the money as retained earnings within the business so that the business can be able to grow, or the business may actually make losses. So you have to understand, and that's why you see you have to spread your investments as well. Don't only put your eggs in one basket, okay? Then lending out money. For me, I learned this in a bad way. Many people I gave my money didn't pay back. So these days when somebody wants money, I give them the money that I'm okay to lose. So somebody comes to me and says, I want 300,000. I'm like, I don't have that money, but I can get you 100,000. When I know that maybe it's a family person, I give them 100,000. And in most cases, by the way, they even don't pay back the money. So, and even friends and so on. But at the end of the day, I also make sure I don't have, one of the things that I usually avoid is having a lot of money on my account or in easy reach. And I know we are masterful, we want to be much helpful, but we have to think about ourselves as well. It's personal finance, it's personal, it's private in that way, okay? So keep trying to get out of it, and I believe maybe it can help you, okay? Just look at here. Can I keep a cash book to track saving and expenses? Please, you can be able to keep, because sometimes you say saving with a given investment club, but you cannot even tell when you last saved. So you are at the mercy of the person who actually receives this savings. So it's very good to track some of your savings, okay? Especially with the ones where you maybe make routine investments. Just have that notebook that you call your financial book, where it records some of your monies. Whom have you given money? Have you ever given somebody, maybe lent somebody money and you forget and they don't even pay you and like, I'd forgotten about it? It's because we have not appreciated the aspect of writing. So you can actually keep a cash book to track your, I would ask you to track your incomes. Okay, incomes, maybe you have a single income, maybe it's a fixed income that you may not have to really track as that much, but at least you can track your savings because they are not very standard like your income. And then you can also track your expenses, okay? Myself, because I have alternative sources of income, I also try to track my incomes as well. And that also helps me to know which other people have either paid me or I'm still demanding them, because I track my income because of my nature of other sources of income. But if you have a single source of income, you may not have to really track that. You can track your expenses, okay? Yeah, so Kaguya says commitment is key, but how do I deal with compromise? Okay, how do I deal with compromise? I think what I would say to that, Fiona, is that we are human, and even the picture I used of a married couple, I think we have seen many people fall short of their commitment. But one of the things that keeps you even going forward, okay, it's not that you will not fall, you sometimes fall, but rise up and remember your goals, remember why you started. But also is create those commitment structures. Okay, I call them commitment structures. in terms of things that hold you committed to your goals. If it's if I've signed up, let's say let's say an insurance policy, Juliet will tell me that if you jump your premiums for these next months, you'll actually lose all your money. That will keep me pushing. Even when I have, let's say, an issue with my finances, or I have some money to pay, I will not withdraw more money from my account, because I have to make sure I leave an amount of money that can cater for my routine direct debits that have to get off the account. Okay, so have that kind of try to put those commitment structures that can help you get even much committed along your personal finance journey. Okay, yeah, so that is what I can basically say, and I hope this is helpful. So can I take, is there somebody who is unmuting, maybe to comment? I would also love to hear any comments about this whole so-called thing of personal finance, or what you hope to do differently anyway. Anyone wants to unmute and share?
Hello?
Yes, Patrickson.
Yes, good evening, everyone.
Good evening to you.
Yeah, I wanted to share something very small on the power of small money.
Yeah.
I think I made that decision 3 years ago, where I look at things like, for example, at workplace, I got small privileges like airtime, transport, so I sit back and pay if they give me airtime. But initially, I was also buying airtime. So I started collecting this small money, and it would get unnecessary travel. So I would put all this money together. So at the end of the year, I literally evaluated it and I said, okay, this is actually how I could get money to invest. And that helped, it has really helped me to push on. And again, it's also good to have it's a hard commitment to have an annual budget where you could even, I've done it personally, like even like you said, today is Wednesday, you know what they eat on a Wednesday, you track the diet, even school fees you pay on a monthly basis, so that because the term can start and you are not well, but if you have been paying on monthly basis, then you would only get money for requirement and send a child to school. So, and all these, at times it helped me. The money is not there, but you look at the budget, there are some redundant. So idea is like running a home like a project. And you see some line that are redundant, then you get money. You play around with the budget and you always keep getting money. And you see which budget to reduce in case shock happen, how do I adjust in the household? So, and it really helps. That is something small I wanted to share. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Patrickson, for sharing. I think you reminded me about something to do with the aspect of small money. Still, I'll just share another perspective that, like we're saying, you start small when it comes to, let's say, your saving journey. Now, every time we tell somebody, let's say you're saving 100,000 per month, immediately they want to multiply it by 12, and they say this was just 1.2 at the end of the month. Maybe they're even earning more than. So I say, so I save only 1.2 at the end of the year. So there's a lot that comes with small money, and the longer period you save such small amounts of money, or you let's say reduce in terms of your costs, whatever perspective it is, you find that this 100,000, if you're saving it for over 5 years, it's going to turn into serious amount of money. Okay, and the same thing with also in terms of cutting your costs. You find that, for example, myself, I use data, and I want to tell you that I usually let's say load 50,000, and in the month I can use over, let's say, over 250 or 300,000 just in data. And if you're not taking keen note on some of those small leakages, you find yourself in circumstances where you're actually losing money, and you are not aware of why you actually broke. Okay, so I like the fact that you've been able to share something to do about small money and your experience. Okay, yeah. Somebody says, okay, somebody young, is it possible that you could help us with Excel worksheet, which is linked so that whenever you enter a transaction, it populates to come up with a trial balance, income statement, or any. There's something to do with okay, for our side hustles. Okay. Okay, this one we can be able to look at this. This is from the business perspective. I thought maybe you're trying to look for something that that tracks your expenses. Of course, we have applications and so on that can help you, but for this purpose, I think I'll be able to revert accordingly. Says, thanks for the presentation. I pray that this improves our personal finance journey. Thank you so much. I would love to hear from Juliet. I know, Juliet, you're into this journey of life insurance, personal finance. Please, could you share your experience and what are your thoughts?
Okay. My thoughts, I've acquired a lot of knowledge from this coaching or training, which I want to share with my family and other relatives. I think together we can start this journey to improve our financial future and security. I want them to have a mindset of producers rather than consumers. I think that's one of the problems that we have in our families, that our families just want to be consumers. They look at you as a cow which they are going to milk, instead of being, the ones to look after themselves. So I want to have that kind of mindset change in my family.
Yeah. Okay, fine. Thank you so much, Juliet, for sharing that. And thank you so much for the comments. Mr. Mustafa has shared a comment here. His questions have all been answered. So I believe this has been helpful to you all. Paul Holinga and the rest of the team, Carol, Fiona. I hope you've been able to get something, and maybe if there is anything that you may need support on, or that is still a challenge, please do this reflection that we have done within this training. Extend this, have some time alone and see what works for you. We'll have, let's say, other sessions individually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who's still there?
Maybe you have a network problem.
Okay, can we say thank you?
Right, friends, internet had taken me out, but I believe that this has been helpful, and let's go improve our personal finances and become much better people. Unless there's any other question, I would love to call this to an end. And our next sessions will basically be around the individual sessions that we're going to have. So from all that we have studied in the different sessions, I want you to create an action plan. so that when we're having the one-on-one conversations, you have something that you're going to do that we can be able to hold each other accountable in regards to. At least I would love to check on you and you tell me that you at least have opened up an account with, let's say, this so-called investment group or whatever you're doing. I would love to see the action aspect from your journey. Okay, so let's see how this can basically really go. Like I said, please, this is your journey, and just try out to do it differently and see how next year, next month, this whole decade can be for you. At the end of the day, everything starts with a decision and everything starts with a single step. So make your first step, and I believe that you'll actually not regret your decision. So thank you so much, friends. And I wish you all the best. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you too.